position will hopefully be filled. In Tennessee, we hired a new art teacher and a new librarian. Director of Human Resources, obviously, we need to hire a new director at this point.
Can we, on the reading teacher and the special ed teacher at Francis, don't tell me the numbers, but yes or no, we have more than one applicant for those positions.
For us, I saw 18. For the special ed, I saw 18 applicants for that
We
one.
have for the special ed, and
The reading was an internal to begin with, so there were internal candidates that they interviewed, they didn't find one appropriate, so they're going outside, and I believe she's interviewing live.
okay.
Okay.
Moving on to Kent Heights. All of the staff at Kent Heights pretty much remain the same. Martin. There was the new librarian who was hired at step one. We'll be starting in September. And there was a guidance teacher, guidance position that was also added at Martin that we're going to be funding through the ESSER 2 grant.
And that was filled.
And that was filled,
Right,
correct.
that was filled.
So what's your plan on that, if you're funding that through grant?
The plan is to next year then take some of those positions off the grant and put them into the general fund so that we're having a gradual phase in.
We're not adding so many in the first year into our budget.
I'll wait to see the rest of the budget to
Yeah.
see where, because again, we're talking about absorption of,
Understand?
overall of, because, right, I mean, we, between contract obligations that are increasing, when those grants go away, right, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
So now this is a position that's not represented in, so,
Just for a year. It's
right,
why-
but
you'll see
that's,
why.
yeah, so, yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to see
Yeah.
that.
You'll see why.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to Orlo Avenue. There were no changes within that school. Pre-K at Martin. We hired a new teacher that will be, it was a special educator that will be spending her time between pre-K at Martin and pre-K at Oldham. So that's a brand new position that will be funded by the grant. There is a vacant, currently there's a vacancy for a pre-K teacher at Oldham because that person went and bid into the high school position that we talked about earlier. Pupil personnel, we have the teacher of vision that we talked about earlier. I know a couple of interviews have already been held. And
One this morning, one tomorrow.
and then one more tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have a candidate by next week. And that position will be filled. At Riverside, same as at Martin, that other additional guidance person that was placed in there, that will be funded from the ESSER 2 grant as well. And that was not a district person, that was someone who came in from out of the district. And everything else at Riverside Middle School pretty much remains the same. Silver Spring, other than some paraprofessional hires that she'll be having to do based on some transfers, all the other positions have remained the same. Superintendent's office, that is all same. Within the technology department, you approved the job description for the information system and data specialist the other night. That position is open, it's posted right now on school straight. Moving into Waddington, we have the additional dean of students that was hired, and we had already planned for that position to be funded by the grant.
Right.
Absolutely.
I keep hitting you with questions.
No, that's fine.
And I that you're identifying which positions are being funded by grants. I do wish that I could see which grant they were being funded by, because again, some of these grants we know continue. And right now, like with, we can anticipate that that they won't end.
Like Title 1, 2, 3,
Right.
and 4. Yeah. The
But-
CRP.
Yeah, so I can provide you, tonight with a listing of that, and I can, that all.
Because I don't want to stop on each one as I'm like now, because I started looking back and, there's quite a few through the elementaries that are grant funded, but without knowing, again, is it a grant that's going away in a
Like the
couple of
reading
years?
teachers.
Yeah, a lot of the
Title
readings
1,
and-
yeah.
Yeah,
Now the Title I.
And just to add to that, if you, for Max and I, can you kind of let us know which ones will be reoccurring, and which ones won't be?
Absolutely.
So we can differentiate what they mean.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
so maybe like if it's a separate sheet, right, that for the group that will list positions, basically definition of the grant and like I said, whether it's repeated or not, and then which position the phase we need.
Absolutely. Waddington has the open position right now. That is the grade 5 teacher. I don't know the stats of that. I don't think
I believe she's interviewing on Monday.
okay. I know there's quite a number.
A number of candidates, internal candidates.
That's good.
Well, internal, just means that we're gonna open up something else.
Correct.
Yes, correct, yes.
Yeah.
Sort of-
No,
Oh, it's
but
not going
It's-
to
I think no matter what, you're gonna have a lot of candidates anyway at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah. I would apply, but I don't. I can't for the school committee thing.
Now, if they don't find an internal candidate of their liking, then they go outside as some of these have done.
That's right, because it's a two-step first, you
Right,
have
right.
to apply.
In the contract.
And then Waddington, everything else remains the same.
Are we adding a reading, I know we had 2 reading teachers and then I think we lost one and now are we bringing another one? I'm not sure. Is that,
Waddington's just to be
they've always had 2? Because I think, no, okay,
It's true.
yeah.
2 reading and 2 math. But you're right, they were down one.
We've done down
Math.
one
Yeah.
math. One math. Yes, we brought that back.
And then staffing remains the same for White Neck. So the bottom line, so keeping in mind, so this is for November, this goes November 1 through October 31, 2022. So the salaries are reflective of that time frame. We have people who will be moving up steps. So we have November to June 30th on we have 22 payrolls that go from November through till the August, and then we have the last 4 payrolls that are at the new rate. So that number there. So the total for salaries is $52,973,362. When you minus out all of the positions that are funded by the grant, which is $4,326,689.62. So that leaves a salary line item flowing into the general fund of $48,646,673.
Roughly because of the custodians, right?
I think it's just because of all of the contracts that have.
And Diana, we were talking today. Between the end of last week and this week currently, we've had, 100 new registrations?
How many new?
120.
Well, our census came out and we were up 104 East Providence residents.
We had 83 last year and 17, last week and 17 just yesterday.
Is there a
Age.
trend?
Like,
Across the board,
across the age group.
basically, mostly elementary, some in elementary, a couple in middle school, and then the remaining was probably high school.
And that's true to keep in mind, there are the new positions at the high school that we never had before. The teacher for the vision, that's a new position, but that was needed
Right.
because of services for students that moved in. So, it was either pay a company to come in and
Which
provide
we
the
have been
services
doing, right?
to the
So how does that net out when you look at that? Like paying what we paid to the company as opposed to,
It's a substantial thing.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, now.
I mean, I would assume that, but,
I think the
Yeah.
company was 140, you told me?
Additional,
Additional.
additional.
Yeah.
On top of
on
what we
top of
already,
what,
yeah.
that was new services.
And this person's a new staff member now. It's
Yeah.
East Providence staff
Yes.
member.
And
And
the
we're going to need these services for a while.
Right, and so the student is an elementary student, and, so going forward, that person would stay in place and then cover the other students that had been previously covered by contract.
That, I was gonna ask that. So this teacher can be used multiple places if other students have the same. That's great. That's great.
I know, just in case you have it there, I know you're gonna break out the grant stuff. But if I was to look at that 4.3, about how much of that will be gone in 5 years, 3 years?
It doesn't matter.
That's not what I just said, you may not know.
I mean,
Yeah.
We
the,
know that the ESSER 2 grant is gonna be ending in 2023.
Yeah.
The ESSER 3 grant, we don't, Bride has not provided any additional information to us, no application, we don't even know about those funds yet. But those funds will be ending in 2024.
and the pre-K money is ending. I mean, that's
Right,
over $1 million.
So it sounds to me, am I right in saying that my concern really revolves around the ESSER grants?
Correct.
Yes.
And so of that, in this 4.3, how much of this is ESSER?
I will provide that.
Okay. Because,
Those are good
And
handful
keep
that I'm
in,
aware.
and you're right, but keep in mind, we were trying, well, this is your budget, so you can decide what to do, but what we were trying to do is ease some of these new positions in over the course of time. Because what we had to put in for this year was, you see as we go on,
yeah,
it's a little bit overwhelming, okay? So we're trying to ease them in.
Moving on to the next part, which is a budget for the general fund. Starting up at the very top in the 51,000 series. The salaries total of 48,646,673 was that number that I just talked about. Approximately 1.4 million more than last year's budgeted salary. This includes the contractual raises that were recently ratified. As I already mentioned, there's still one bargaining unit that we just started the negotiations on. Salaries for substitutes, we left, the superintendent and I decided to leave that line in the same amount as we don't anticipate, number one, having the extra custodial help that we will need in order to sanitize. And two, that there will also be more paraprofessionals that are already going to be in the buildings than we've had for this past year. No other significant salary changes in the rest of the line items. So this brings the salary total for the 51,000 series to $50,393,673, an increase of $1,461,139 as compared to last year. Any questions before I move on to the benefits? Okay. 52,000 series. Benefits. Our health insurance saw an increase of 5%, which is really good. Dental remained flat. Of course, there are pension increases as always for the certified and non-certified staff. We reduced the unemployment line by $50,000. No one is really on unemployment at this time. We did see another significant increase in our workers' compensation premium. We are in year 2 of the Trust and Safety Program that's offered in conjunction with Rhode Island Interlocal Risk Management Trust, our workers' compensation carrier. Members of this committee include administration, principals, teachers, and our maintenance and custodial staff. During the monthly meetings, we spend time reviewing trends for workplace injuries for the month, and we develop quarterly goals in order to improve workplace safety for our employees, with the goal that if we can identify and work to address trends, then our incidences will decrease. This committee this year has worked incredibly hard. And while our premium did go up, what they use as what they say the modifier, which is used to determine your rate, our modifier did remain the same while other entities went up. So we can see that the work is working. It's just going to take us a little while to get there. Plus, with 3 of the union negotiations completed so far, so the longer someone stays out on a workers' compensation injury, that's going to affect the premiums we have. So now that we've been able to remove that language out of 3 of the contracts, I think we're going to start to see some movement in this. So the total for the 52,000 series in benefits is $21,164,464, approximately $575,762 more than this fiscal year. In the 53,000 series, professional and technical services, you can see that there are some increases in the speech therapist and psychologist line items. These are services that are purchased outside the district to provide services to our students. Account number 53222, web-based supplements. That is all of the online computer programs that are used for the students and staff within the district. The guidance we have received from the Department of Ed on the ESSER 2 grant is that this is an allowable expense for that grant. As such, we have removed this budgeted line item from the general fund. Line 53403, one-to-one health providers. There is an increase of $200,000 to this line item. We have had students in the district over the summer requiring one-to-one nursing services. And then finally, line 53411 and 53412, physician and dentist. We have had the same school physician for 23 years. She's had an excellent working relationship with our school nurses. So for the first time in a number of years, she requested an increase for her services. So there was a very slight increase for her services. And then also for the dentist, we did not, the dentist that the school department had has recently retired. So we need to find a new school dentist.
I am Alice's looking at that for us.
What are the,
Those children that don't have dental services, they'll go in and do an examination and then refer them to.
They do screenings.
What about the wrong,
Yeah, it's not what the,
That-
that's a free service that goes around.
Yes, that is.
So what dentist was going into our schools to do screening?
I don't know what his name is.
I'm not
but-
asking.
He's been here for,
Number of years.
I don't remember.
usually we have a dentist.
you're the doctor. We just looked for, we asked Diana, Diana. You
We will,
Yeah, just to see
Yeah.
if that's, if,
I've never, like, I was always under the impression that those students that didn't have those services were being
Yeah, I asked
screened
that
by
question.
that.
That big truck, I saw it at Waddington.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
always gone to all the schools.
I've seen it.
I don't know if it's, I know that, I do know that they do work. I've had
What's
family
the wrong-
members,
Yeah.
use them.
Maybe they do the work that is referred to by the dentist,
That
I'm
would
thinking,
make
so I'll
sense.
get a clarification from
Right.
Diane
I think
Wallace.
that-
Yeah.
I know my
Pardon?
child,
I think that might.
that might
Yeah, I
be,
think
I
that
know
might
we
be
could
true.
sign up for it, and I know
Yeah.
now you have to actually say no.
Let me see, I'll check it with Diane. Okay. Yeah, get back to me.
So that brings the total for the 53,000 series to $1,314,429, a reduction of $166,322.
Right. On that, don't just ask her, I don't really care the name of the person.
No, right.
I wanna know what the-
Person, what he does.
I want to know what the schedule is, like what the contract looks like, you know, what are we actually paying for?
Mhm.
Um,
It does.
yeah.
Anything about
Well, in Rhode Island, the dental assistant is
Oh, I didn't know what the
Yeah.
position
potential
was.
assistant?
in New York State, possibly depending on, yeah. Yeah. In New York State, I think there's, dental assistants can
Because
actually
Leslie knows.
Oh, here we go,
place
thank you.
billings.
So I was just checking on the Department of Health website, and it does say that schools are required to submit kindergarten and third grade aggregate data and that on dental screenings. And so I believe that some comes in from, your personal dentist, if you have a
Yeah.
dentist. And then for those who don't, they have the screenings in school, and that goes up to the Department of Health. The SMILE programs and those kinds of things, those are additional, and as far as I remember correctly, those go through they could go through a person's insurance if they have it. But it's a service, kind of like the Lions Club provides and that kind of thing, and those are more voluntary than anything.
So she's absolutely right, and it just reminded me, so those yellow cards that, we've all had to turn in, so,
Same as vision.
yes, somebody in my family forgot to turn it in her 5th grade year and had to go see the dentist, and, that didn't turn out so well for the person that was screening her. So if you forget to turn in that card, that's exactly what happens, so there is, I don't know who it is, but they have to see that person. And then I do know that the Smiles does take insurance if you need a cavity filled and you do have it, and you'd rather it be done at school, have a good time, bye.
So, the requirement being aggregate data leaves a lot of detail out of that reporting. So that's why I'd like to know what the contract actually,
But I'd like to know if RIDE requires us to have a dentist and a doctor on our so-called payroll. I think they may, I think I read that they did,
I
so.
believe they do.
I'll look in our office. There's a contract. I'm not aware of
so, yeah,
You have to have a doctor because they need to sign off on the nurse's orders and what the health plan for the school, so they at least have to do that. So I know that is a must. So nurses operate under the auspices of that doctor.
Yes.
and the EpiPens. I know she signs all of the prescriptions for EpiPens and Narcan. Okay, moving on to the 54,000 series property services. Most of all the items have remained the same as last year, with the exception of line 54,501 school construction. We have zeroed out that line item within the general fund, as these expenses will be covered under the ESER 2 grant for the coming years. So the total for the 54,000,
You and I talked about the pay-as-you-go fund,
Mhm.
of which we have $400,000 left in pay-as-you-go money for projects. So weren't we going to use some of the rest of that pay-as-you-go
correct,
for the 4 years, correct?
correct, yeah.
So that doesn't have to come out of this, we got
That makes
pay-as-you-go.
me happy.
Okay, yes, well, we just found out, we got a note saying this
And that would
morning,
just
you
come out
gotta
of
use
our
it.
capital fund.
Yeah.
Yes, we gotta use it before it can go back to RIDE
Oh, we can.
of the 10 million, yes. So that's what we're gonna do, okay? That's great.
We'll go back to that.
Oh, no, that's
Stuff.
not a great amount.
What's that?
So. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll ask you offline.
Absolutely. Okay, so for the 54,000 series property services, total 636,000, a decrease of $3,000 from this current fiscal year. Next up, in the 55,000 series, other services. First line, transportation. With a 3% increase from Ocean State Transportation, coupled with the work that Diana Clarkin did to help us get savings with the statewide transportation move, we're looking at approximately 5.7 million for our transportation services, which would be regular and special ed, athletics, and field trips as well. Also included in this section is all of the out-of-district special education placements, which for this year totals $6,715,000, a reduction of approximately $312,000 from this year. Pupil personnel services worked this past spring and summer to move back quite a number of students from out-of-district placements. But as you well know, these line items can be very volatile for us and can change very quickly. Well, we do have enough cushion within there with what we think is going to cover any of the movements that we historically have seen. So the total for the 55,000 series is $14,055,190, an increase of $621,200 over this current fiscal year. Next up, in the 56,000 series, supplies. We budgeted a slight decrease in the general supply line item of $20,000. Most of the line items in the section remain the same as last year. Slight increase for gas, heating, and a $65,000 increase in electricity. And in line 56,215, oh, that was for the electricity, pardon me. And then in 56,217, plumbing and heating, a slight reduction. The next grouping, custodial supplies, textbooks, library books. We zeroed those lines out as all of these are considered allowable expenses under the ESSER 2 grant and the ESSER 3 grant. And really one of our goals with the ESSER 3 grant is to do a complete refresh of the libraries. Because as you know from being in some of the libraries, some of them really do need a lot of refreshing, and we have made progress, and the librarians have ordered books throughout the course of the years, but at least this grant would give us another opportunity to do a nice big refresh for all of them. So the custodial supplies, any custodial supplies that are related to COVID can be claimed underneath the grant, as well as the textbooks. So any curriculum that we buy, as you know, we used the grant funding for this year to purchase the math curriculum, and I believe next up, I don't know if it's next year or the following year, will be science. Any expenses for that science curriculum will come out of the ESSER.
I think next up is math middle school.
Oh, math, okay.
Remember, middle school, they're going through the training this year.
Still got it, sorry.
Right, and then science, yeah.
Okay.
What's this? Once we're on the ride, curriculum, I mean, I've sat up here for 8 years. I feel like we're just doing curriculum over 6 years. I don't know how long. I feel like we're doing curriculum over and over and over. I understand it, but will we be able to slow it down a little bit once we're all on the ride? You think? Or is this continuous?
No, to the extent we've been doing it now with the RIDE curriculum and trying to get statewide curriculums in the major
Right.
areas, yes, we'd be able to slow it down, but I never wanted to stop.
Well, no,
Because
I'm just
you don't want to be in the place you
publicly
were.
stating that
Yeah.
this is important
Yes,
stuff.
it
and
is, very.
we
So,
need to.
yeah, the next big one is really science.
So I would say once you get your core programs in place, then you step back into your curriculum cycle, which is review, revise, adopt maybe, and that will be several years down the road after you purchase your program. But you're always doing some amount of curriculum work. You may not be spending, I don't know how much you spent,
Yeah.
a lot of money. You may not be spending that type of money. You may be spending a little bit, but not that type.
I mean, I've been asked by other districts, because we're obviously always on top of that, how we go about doing it and how much it costs, because other districts around us keep the same curriculum and haven't changed it. And that's now that you have to change it by law.
Well, they probably supplement it,
Yeah.
but they may not have done a full purchase. The
Yeah.
district has done a full purchase.
That's right.
The Senate that I am, I must state that, of course, Pearson's and companies like Pearson spend a lot of money lobbying so that the Department of Ed mandates changes in curriculum so that they can sell you new curriculum, so that will not go away.
Sure, they
We will
lobby
continue
politicians
to
too.
need to update curriculum.
But we always want to keep the living document.
What I'm saying is that, you know,
I know.
Pearson has its investors to answer to, so if they don't keep moving product,
Well, so does McGraw, yeah.
Yes,
They
they're
Yeah,
all
they all
got-
do, they all
They
do.
all do, they lobby.
But we do want textbooks that, you know,
so it'll look the same, because someone will say, didn't we do this before? Yes, it was just called something
Right.
different.
right.
But anyway, that's
It's
just,
called the new math when I went to college.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's old now.
which will fall into that. So I may not wait till offline on, because this is gonna fall into that same
Okay.
question that I have, so.
All right, so the total for the 56,000 series, $1,951,800, a reduction of $259,720. In the 57,000 series property, line 57,202, building improvements. Continuing with our facilities strategic plan, we do have projects that are within pipeline, and there's always a boiler that's gonna break. So that's why that $100,000 is there to act as that, just in case a boiler breaks, and also to help us with the facility strategic projects that we have that are going on. On the next line item down for the vehicles, 57,301, we really need to replace 2 trucks. A pickup truck with a plow piece, and as well as a box truck. So our vehicles are just getting older, so that's why there's a $50,000 increase in that line item to cover the cost of those two trucks.
How long do we have to wait to replace the one with the plow? I'd rather not do that for November.
Yeah, so funny, because we
Yeah.
were talking about that, because I did say I asked Tony Peter, just to get some prices from the purchasing, construction that we purchased from before. Because in case, what I'd like to do is, if we have some funds that are left over for this year, as we're getting closer, then I'd like to move forward on that. And they're already saying probably quotes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start to take a look at things, and of course, before we move forward on anything, we're gonna bring that forward to you for your approval.
Did you, I don't know if you caught what, because I'm hearing what she's saying is that maybe new isn't the option for us right now.
Well, I don't even, I mean, for someone who's been looking for, a car, I know you can't, but I'm concerned that if we don't get one with a plow, that we're gonna, and I mean, I know we didn't have any snow removal last year and that was awesome. I doubt that that's gonna happen again.
Right.
We could pray, but, I'm just concerned that we won't have enough to move the snow once we get
Yeah.
it.
I
So
agree.
What is their fallback, you know?
what is a fall?
Yep, okay.
Is it, do we have another truck we can put a plow on and we can just buy the, plow, we're gonna have to look for something.
Talk to
More of
John
those
about
little plow, I don't know. Try to drive a minivan.
Yeah.
that. Moving on. And there's a slight increase in the furniture and fixtures line item, and that was based upon our budget meetings that we had with the principals. I believe it was Riverside and Martin. Yeah, some furniture, some
No, I think,
pieces.
and I think, Myron J. Francis.
Myron J.
remember, she
Francis,
started,
correct,
yeah.
yep. Line 57309, tech hardware. I confirmed with the Department of Ed, and they said, yes, any hardware that's related to the education of our students, be it for them or our staff, that is an allowable expense under ESSER 2 and as well 3. So we have zeroed that line item out as well, which made our technology director very happy, because what we really want to do is looking at and maximizing the ESSER funds to replace all of the old Promethean boards that we've been cycling through, that we replace about 5 to 10 each year. This will really allow us to do some planning. And as Ben said, what he would ideally like to do is the technology setups that are going to be at the high school for high school teachers. He'd like to move that across the district. So
And that's something good because that would be a one-time buy,
one-time
and
purchase.
that's not something that we have to continue in the budget.
And then just that tech software that has to remain, because that is the purchase, that's the software that we use for the accounting software and human resources payroll as well. So the total for 57,000 series is 465,000, which is a reduction of 417,653 from this current fiscal year. And finally, in the 58,000 series, we have a slight increase in both the 58,000 series, which are the professional dues for the principals. But the superintendent has added in the assistant principals as well. And then the 58,102 for the dues, tournaments, and fees. That's kind of the catch-all. So any tournaments that the athletic teams go to, best buddies, all of the teams that we had, all of those dues fall into that line item. So that line item has a very slight increase, so that's a total for 65,000. So that brings our grand total expenses to 90 million, post expenses of $90,045,556. Now let's go to revenue. An important piece of the revenue that we have is our state aid. At this time, for fiscal year 22, our aid is slated at $36,905,529. At the end of the fiscal year, to make things just a little side, because we have our 11/1 to 10/30. So our final number at the end of the fiscal year is actually it's 8 months of the 36,905,529. And then whatever gets determined for next July 1, we have 4 months of that amount. So I kept in the full amount, anticipating that our state aid would at least stay the same. The fact that we've had at least 100 students enroll over the last 2 weeks is going to help us. So the superintendent and I met, we reviewed this, and we are comfortable with leaving that number the way it is. Tuitions, other districts. This is the amount of money that comes in for the students that were attending the CTC. Mr. Hanlon was able to provide me with the current projected enrollments. And so as you can see by the 550,000, we have quite a number of students that are coming in from other districts to attend the CTC. So that number is significantly up from this past year. Rental income. We know, hopefully, speaking with Diana, that at least at some point we know that the middle schools and the elementary schools are going to be used at some point during the course of the year. So the superintendent and I talked about it, and we decided to put in a $15,000 amount for projected revenue that's coming in just for rentals from the middle schools and the elementary schools.
Where was that represented in previous budgets?
Same line item.
It was just COVID the last 2 years.
So if I look back to 2019, this is also on your monthly financial report that we do. So if we look back to 2019, rental income was just about $25,000. In 2018, it was $32,500. So this past year, we went on zero. So refund prior year expenses, that always happens. There's some type of, after the fiscal year ends and closes, there's always something that comes in that is a refund. So that's why we historically always have that amount in there. Medicaid. So for the Medicaid services that we provide, and if the child is eligible, CompuClaim helps us to facilitate the reimbursement. We are projecting a little bit less in that line item for next year. And then finally, for the miscellaneous, you do have miscellaneous revenue that comes in at any other point during the year. As you can see, as an example, for the year to date, when the elevator was flooded at the old high school and was deemed no longer usable, the insurance company basically had to pay us for what that was worth. So that check, that money, we had to land somewhere because it was revenue that was coming in, so that comes in under miscellaneous revenue. So when all is said and done, with regards to additional monies that we'd be asking the city of East Providence to help fund the proposed expenses, that would be $865,676 over the fiscal 21 appropriation.
What's the understanding that we still have one bargaining unit to go, to negotiate, but as you said earlier, you kind of forecasted that into your numbers. What's the annual increase that those contracts represent each year?
Let's see. Teachers, hang on one second. Just pull that up.
No, dollar.
Yeah, so just, well, now of course, we've had some fluctuation with teachers, but you get people who be retired left. But that was well over 1.4 million just for salaries.
Just for one unit.
Yeah.
So it was 1.4 per year increase. Now you add in the others, so safe to say 2.5?
Secretaries is smaller, it's a smaller union,
Okay, so two.
professionals,
2?
Yeah, you're
You-
you're probably a little south of 2.
So if you're looking at 2 a year increase, we'll go back to my, thing I keep talking about with, when the ESSER goes away. We go to a city saying this year, we only need an 865, but we've zeroed out a lot of items covered under ESSER. Some of those things won't come back because they're one-time purchases, understood. So some of them will come back with also $2 million in salary increases. So at what years without having other items that were still factoring into this budget request, like recurring, that's my concern. I'm not sure, where it's gonna sit, but that's the plan I wanna see, is that when those extra funds go away, and some of the things that are recurring expenses that we're covering with us now come back into our budget, in addition to the contractual obligations. We can't show up to a council budget request meeting and say, this year we need 2 million, 2.5, whatever the case is. So in 3 years, we need to be in a position where we have our maintenance of effort as such, so that when the ESSER funds goes away, we are now going to the city saying, we only need 800, which is what we've been asking for, because we've been right around that every year. But now,
Last year we were a lot lower.
so, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, well, you're right. So that's my concern, is that all of a sudden we go, oh, I know we've been covering this, which is great, but now you've got to adjust your budget so much to now shift to your school department 2-point-something million dollar increase. Whereas if they were doing it gradually, if we help them do it gradually, they can budget the rest of the departments. So I don't, just,
And part of the discussions that the superintendent and I had, certainly can't look into the crystal ball and see who's going to retire, right? But when you look at the ages, and when you look at the contract that was just agreed to, I would bet, but I'm not a betting man, but I would bet you're gonna see a significant amount of your top set people leave within a couple of years. Yeah, but
But we looked at age, it's like, age, of the employees and the number of years of service, which now come what's retired. And you've got quite a few.
Or they could stay forever, because they love their job.
Oh, yeah, they could.
but even if they
It's it.
do,
It's a catch.
right,
there's still, even if they get you down to 1.5, plus whatever other increases that you're adjusting for.
So maybe things like, you have 2 resource officers at the high school, you need one into the grant. Maybe that's something that you won't be able to fund 3 or 4 years down, maybe you won't need to, depending. You have 2 at the high school. Okay, the grant, where we got the second one, was paid half by the state and half by the district
Which grant?
for the resource officer. We've had it for 3 years. Okay, that's why we got the second one. Well, if you can't fund it any longer, and based on, not really, you could eliminate that. There might be some positions of that nature that you would have to go back and eliminate. I'm just saying,
No, I understand.
in relationship to kind of lower that cost. If we do have a large number of retirements, you're talking about hiring on a much lower level, and that would help considerably too. But again, this is all guesswork. I mean, you just
Right.
can't project it, because you've always got special ed, but it's like, I'm gonna be,
But that,
because you never can tell those costs, so that's always there.
So when you look at, and we don't have that here, again, and maybe this needs to be like an offline conversation, so that I'll hold everything up, and I'm looking at, like, you know, of the ESSER funds, how much of that is being used to pay for people and services that are going to continue to exist when the ESSER funds go away? Because when the funds go away, that becomes an obligation, a need that we are going to now look to either, that's what I'm saying, if we have something built in to our budget now that we're not padding, but we're moving up, doing stuff so that we can shift it in 3 years, you know, like when you look at, something on facilities, right now, I understand that we've got the pay-as-you-go money, and there's a lot of stuff there, but if there's something like that, that we can decrease in spending when the ESSER funds go away, and move that budgeted item over into your salaries to absorb that, that's what I was looking for, so when I see that, oh yeah, you know, we can pay for this with ESSER, like, and it's something that I'm going, all right, that's still gonna be here in 4 years. That becomes a concern.
So let's stay on that for, so we're going to do the 4 years. That's something that we need to do for security and safety. We said we were doing it a 5-year plan. Remember, the reimbursement all depends on keeping to that 5-year plan. So you don't have to worry about that. If we're putting the new windows in 3 of the rooms, you know, again, some of the facilities things, you won't have to worry about those big numbers because we can do it. So those are the kinds of things we are thinking about too.
No, I
Kind
understand,
of thing you wanna know about,
I
right?
understand that part.
Yeah.
But the other things that are
Mhm.
not
The
fixed
people.
in dollar, but fixed in the fact that they're gonna continue,
Mm.
right, like those projects, yes, like you said, for our reimbursement stuff, part of the 5-year plan for the district to ride, I understand that, we can tell Ride, see,
Yeah.
we did this work, right? So, take that out of it, but
I'm
it's,
really talking the salaries of the people that we wanna
Yeah,
continue, for example, the extra dean at Waddington,
right,
the extra, what else did we put out?
yeah, the guidance, stuff like that doesn't go away.
No.
And now you're gonna have to fund that, and you don't have grants to fund it, and if our grants being applied are still have us at an 850,000 ask, then when you take the grants out of it, knowing that, you know, I know it's not just added on to this, but there'll be items that we won't have in the budget. That's where I'm a little concerned with the structure of this, of how we're doing this.
We can easily tell you this is what comes out of the CRP, those grants, which is stable.
I can probably tell you most of that now between Leslie and I. We write the grants. I've written,
Yeah, you know the people.
I've written all the grants. I can tell you right now.
Well, right, so basically, right, I mean, you're looking at, what did we say, we said it's 4.3, just over $4.3 million in grant positions in this budget. So that's what I'm saying, so of that 4.3, how much of that is
ESSA.
ESSA?
So what is not ESSA would be the preschool grant, anything that's related to the preschools, and I can't speak for the special ed preschool, but I can speak for the state
Do we
preschool.
have dollars? Like, do you have a total, like,
So the preschool grant is probably $1 million something.
okay,
29.
I can't tell you off the top of my head about Title I, but your reading specialist, your math, your, what do they call them, math curriculum folks come out of there. Your 2 of your deans and your 2 coaches, your math coach and your ELA elementary coaches, those 2 come out of Title II. Title IV, you have part,
Because they're.
yeah, the reading teachers and the math,
And the math.
except for at Francis.
It's at
Francis is not a Title I school,
Those
so
big
let me
numbers.
think what I missed. And Leslie would speak to IDEA. We don't have any social workers in any of the CRP funds.
So we can get you the number
Yeah.
we took out of it. We can get you that.
Because it's almost like you know, obviously, it'd be, Craig would be like, yeah, plenty of time to do this. I almost wish we had a non-ESSER budget. And then, in other words, say, like, in other words, my point is like, here's, if ESSER didn't exist, this is how we would fund the district.
You mean just people or every?
Everything, right? Because, and then now, okay, with that, we can decrease it, because, like I said, that, my overall concern is that it's great that you can do this, but it's that fiscal impact when ESSER goes away to the district and ultimately to the city request, that understanding what that jump is gonna look like and adjusting. And that's what makes me nervous, not for this year, but it's, you know,
But we can give you the salaries. The rest of it, the things one-time purchases. So they will go away, but we can give you the salaries and that'll tell you what won't go away. Okay? And, I mean.
and then from there, right, which would be helpful.
Yeah.
And then
do
from
that.
there, conversation of how do you foresee
Mhm.
absorbing that to, assuming you get no retirement, how would you absorb that in contractual obligations the following? I know it's a lot, but that's just, like, I don't wanna be the, and, you know, see if hopefully I don't end up with cement shoes in the river, but I don't wanna be the Buddy Cianci of these problems where, like, you know, we funded everything looks great, and then all of a sudden, when the grants aren't there, and, you know, you're like, oh yeah, that's great, but now what? Now we've gotta make all these cuts because,
So your federal funds will always be there. The issue is how much, whether they will increase or decrease. And sometimes your increase may be offset by an increase, just like the contract this year. So the change in salaries for the positions that are funded in one of the federal grants
right,
decreases that amount.
right.
So.
And that doesn't, that's what I mean, like, that stays, but it's the ones that leave, when the ESSA program leaves,
It's the
that's the revenue source that I'm like, okay, how do we compensate
Let's
for
look at
that
that.
when that day comes? Because we're building, you know, an operation like that is continuous with a lot of these needs.
Well, I think going further, anything that if we hire a position, maybe we need to know how we're paying them. You know what I'm saying? So like the Waddington Dean, for example, maybe, I mean, that position needs to not go anywhere unless our enrollment goes down, 300 people there, but I would prefer that not to be under a grant. I'd rather that be, okay, it's here to stay. It's just like, when we do with the art and the music, those are the ones that always seem to go up in the air. Well, here, thank goodness, I mean, even the music teacher's number one on our list here. That's not something that we're ever saying, oh, let's do that. So maybe going forward when we hire a position on here.
It's hard to tell whether you're in budget or not. When you hire just any position.
Right.
But let's say the dean at Waddington, we anticipated that would be in our budget, our regular budget. And,
We just so happen to be able to.
we so happen to have ESSA and that position and like the two guidance positions would fall under that as supplemental as far as the SEL. I'm just saying that.
But you take
But you need them
ESSER away, and now your need just goes up like $250,000. Over $1 million ask.
So that's why I said you'd have to clean it out to almost phase it out.
Right, but if the question is where, when you zero out a lot of your operating line items, then all of a sudden you come in the next year and you're like, oh, yeah, now I need that. I need that, but by not asking for it. Like that, I'm not saying that we won't ultimately, this is kind of the ask that I hope that we would be at. But I just want to make sure that we're just wanna make sure that we're like
Yeah.
Understand?
protected, when that goes away.
Mhm.
You know?
Sorry, we're all concerned. I was going to, so one of us is going.
Um, Oh, on a positive note, I just wanna, you had mentioned music.
Yeah.
What are we looking to do at the high school with the project?
The band director is very ready. So she had,
Is this a money raising idea?
No.
It's replacing
Hey, shh, nobody told you to say no way.
Okay, Craig, go ahead.
so we had, when we were talking about the ESSER 2 and 3 grant, we were brainstorming options. One of the things that came up that I advocated for, being a musician, was replacing the instruments at the high school.
You
Some-
just got uniforms, you want instruments now?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Some of the, particularly some of the brass instruments, like a good French horn is about $5,000. So Marissa had put together a wish list, and I said, just put down, what do you think you need, from tuba to timpani, everything. And the original list came about to like $150,000. So then I called her the following morning after the building committee meeting, and I said, the building committee was talking about wanting to help the band program and using the building project to really get that music room ready, well, stocked. And I said,
band pathway.
for a band pathway. I said, so think big. I said, go back to your original list. I said, and retool. I said, you really need to think big and think beyond. I said, because when that music door opens, I said, we really, they want to see some. We know that the band program here is excellent, and so we want to see, a top-notch music program in the music room, where we've got the latest and greatest of all the brass instruments, timpani, xylophones.
So we basically said, looking at the project budget, the savings that we're actualizing, and saying, you know what, we don't use ESSER funds for that, even though they qualify, use that for something else, another need, social emotional need, what have you. But now with these funds from the project, trying to, instead of saying, hey, let's put some more lighting on something, let's do something that impacts the program. And
No brainer. We
Yeah.
have tubas that are being held together by duct tape. They are, the staff are creative how to fix everything, but some of the instruments, it's just time. And
So-
it's gonna be such a worthwhile investment.
And on a second note, in order to get those kids that are playing instruments in high school, you need to make sure it gets fed down to our middle school and our elementary
Absolutely.
schools.
Yep.
Oh, our
Yeah.
schools are purchasing
Yeah.
instruments as part of their budget this year.
Because I know that's been down in
So-
both middle schools.
So now, to that point though, right, so if we initially started, we didn't talk about this, so I'm glad you mentioned, just throwing it out there. Right, so if your initial plan was to use those ESSER funds, for the high school program, well, we can fit that into the high school project budget, then those ESSER funds, since music is, applied under that ESSER thing, why not, instead of the principals feeding out of their own budget?
Yeah.
Look at the middle school music
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
program.
That's where it came in. Yeah, we
Okay.
can,
I think it's
we
fabulous.
we can.
So anyway,
That's awesome. She was thrilled.
and those are, and those are the things that, again, like, the work is paying off and it when it feeds back into the program. But anyway, I thought it was worth mentioning that.
And then just, the other piece that we haven't talked about, is when the school committee feels it's appropriate, that the new high school will be rented out and used for things. So that, I think that's also
Yeah,
part of the discussion too, because, because, it's really, I think, once everything is up and running, that's gonna be a good source of revenue, which is gonna help us, in the long run.
so. So, on the tech hardware, 57, 309,
Very nice, yep,
maybe zeroed out.
Yep.
So that was going to,
so that's any hardware device that we use for technology, Promethean boards, document cameras, laptops, computers, anything that is related to the education of students and it relates to our staff.
and that's ESSA right now for this budget.
Correct.
It wasn't permitted, it's fine to all of our schools.
And Ben, so what Ben is doing, he's developing the plan for, again, hold on, think big, to plot it out to see what he would need to really take care of things in the 3 years.
Along the line of thinking big, we put anything in the lines of vision equipment, that we're looking at?
You wanted the vision machines,
We already bought all
all
of those.
of those. The vision
So something else, for vision training, or what's the vision teacher gonna teach, or?
Oh, so in terms, well, so we would, whatever the student, so
Because
the
there's
student,
very little compared, and I hate to compare things to dental, but I mean, that's the closest thing I can think of, vision and dental.
yeah, so I would think that if there's a student that's receiving the vision services through their IEP, that if there was a device that they needed or a program that was needed for that device, we would take care of that. And that would be addressed through the IDEA grant. Am I right? That's it.
So, a teacher of the visually impaired actually provides direct service to a student who is visually impaired. That could be in the form of Braille, in the form of, use of technology. It takes many, many forms. I have learned a lot about teachers of the visually impaired in the last, several weeks, in preparing. They prepare materials for a student who may require Braille. They translate curriculum materials into Braille. So they teach the student how to translate the teacher's documents into Braille, or some of the voice activated kind of technology. It's a wide variety of things. Okay. There's also how to, one of the biggest things that they teach is independence for the visually impaired or blind student. So through that, there is a lot of use of technology. Now it's so advanced in
But no equipment.
yes, there could be equipment, but it's mostly technology type equipment. There may be a Braille writer, an embosser, a laser printer that we need to be able to create the Braille pages. So it would be that's the kind of equipment that a teacher of the visually impaired would recommend for that type of student. Movement around a building, mobility, their orientation. They also will go into a building and look at it in terms of safety. And so someone who has limited vision, they might not be able to see the corner of the wall, so you would have to put like wide neon strips to guide through the halls. And all of that kind of thing falls under teacher of the visually impaired and orientation and mobility. Sometimes they're dual certified, vision and orientation and mobility, but not always. So that type of equipment is what we would be needing for those students.
scheduled for the 24th. So,
So we need to do it before, and leave the city council has to, I think the city council needs it, I thought by the 23rd. I thought.
so we have to have a meeting.
Available all week. I'm having surgery in like 8 hours.
And I advised him on who he could reach out to, but that's
Oh my God.
fully solved it, but we could. Well, yeah.
Just because I have the car. So what are we looking at? What date? Anybody?
It's unfortunate.
It is. Yeah, maybe we could figure something.
We have to have it to the city council before the
He
23rd.
thinks it's the 23rd, yeah, by charter.
We've never been this.
We've never been this.
It's not, we're not late, we're on
No,
time.
we're on
time.
Usually
We're actually before time. Anybody have any problems? No, you can be, we can be, no.
Okay.
Talked to the attorney general today, and they said we don't need help.
And you said you didn't want those there already.
I think that we're gonna have to have a Philadelphia Patriots game on, since the game's not there now. But I can,
You have that, yeah, Friday the 20th.
Thursday the 19th,
Do Wednesday the 18th.
I can't do that.
oh, good, oh, thank you, Charlie.
Oh, no, I'm just, what days are we
No,
looking at?
So,
Wednesday the 18th.
Wait a minute. No, I can't do it. Well, I mean, Sandy and Celeste could be here. Negotiations on the 18th.
4:30 so
Okay.
far, it's not confirmed, but.
Okay, my negotiation.
I haven't confirmed. But it looks
Oh,
like.
but that's just for.
Yeah, we're trying to, yeah, we're trying to. Is there any other days no one can do?
so we're doing Friday night on the 20th.
I can do it.
Oh my God. Only Friday, we're both busy. 20 years.
Well,
Oh,
no, Betty. I can do it on the 20th.
You don't want to, we're trying to make it during the day, just so we don't.
If we don't do it like at 12, that's fine, 12, fine.
Oh,
You can?
Yeah, I'll use that.
Wait, Charlie can't. Charlie's store.
I can't.
Charlie's store.
I can't do the 19th.
No, during the day.
Thursday, I can, no, 3:30 or so, if I was real. 3:30 or so. But I can do 3:30. All right.
I'll man the store, Charlie.
I'll
tell you. She brought you a couple.
Go get Ben over.
Chef used to volunteer all the time.
Chef?
Used to volunteer to run it.
Stop.
I used to
I
sell.
mean, I don't know where to get this. Okay.
We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait. Hey, I have a picture of Charlie
Oh, wow, a lot of
and
people
something.
say-
So we gotta get this.
Yes, I'm not.
So leave. Where was that?
Not good for Charlie.
19th's not good for Charlie.
Yeah, just so.
It's strange.
I don't know where
In fact, you get quick.
You know that catering budget? It's going up. It's Friday the 20th.
The 18th,
The 19th, no.
You said no to the 18th.
if we did it earlier. Oh, no, we got negotiations.
I mean, unless you do it late. Today, but I'll need to get it
Unless you got plans afterwards.
7 o'clock, 6:30. How long?
She's got plans.
Oh, you have plans to go?
Yeah, I could see your face.
Yeah.
That's plan space.
You're fine with that.
Like to do tell people.
I can't.
No, no,
No.
no, no.
No, The 20th, Friday the 20th, everybody.
By what time?
As soon as the caterer gets here.
So one day
You can't do it?
What time? You pick.
I'm just saying after 3.
Okay.
Yes.
And
How
so
early can
she's
everybody leave?
making,
Oh, I'm at 12 usually on Fridays during the summer. That's just the one day I schedule.
Kathy's making lasagna and.
Well, but we want that. So after whenever you're ready.
Like 3.
None of the 2:30s work for us on Friday.
Is 3
Max, can you do it at 3? Or
Yeah,
3:30?
Charlie.
Charlie gets out at 3:30.
Jump in at 3:30.
3:30?
She wanted to do 3:30.
So,
At 3:30.
Oh, where are we gonna do it? Why do we have to have it here?
well,
You have to have a
council
public meeting.
chambers were booked tonight.
God, I haven't paid attention to any of my meetings for the last 6 years. At school? I don't know.
Well,
Well,
We have to screen it.
We don't put it
Yeah,
here.
we don't, actually don't have.
I was told today we don't have to stream it. I mean, we like to stream it, but we don't have to stream it.
Do you wanna do it here?
Yeah, we can do it here.
Yeah, let's do it
Yeah.
here, because I don't want it to be,
We have-
Never gonna get out of City Hall.
What are we having on the agenda?
Budget workshop 2.
Workshop 2?
No, we can't hold a workshop. They can hold
Uh,
it. So they have to have, yeah,
Budget meeting?
A discussion on budget,
yeah, and then a vote.
budget discussion,
And a
and a
meeting,
vote, and this is fiscal year 2022.
and then dinner.
That's it.
Are we doing the mask policy? Remember you wanted to get that in before September?
No, I wouldn't add to that.
No.
Because we're
Yeah.
not.
As much as I would like to, yes.
Okay, well, that's not, no.
Yeah. I mean, the re-entry fund is already out,
We're gonna
so.
do this, and then we gotta.
Let's make
do
sure
it.
that we get
And it's no executive session, it's just all
And make sure we get back tonight.
at 3:30.
Well, not only
City
that,
council.
if there's any other meeting for mass, this one would.
Yeah. No.
Anticipated audience.
Oh, so
August 29th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just the budget.
I have to reserve it,
Yeah.
but most likely it'll be in this room. And we'll just be the budget discussion and a vote.
Yep.
And before then, if you can send that stuff up, so that
Absolutely.
that way looking at this, because ideally, any questions or whatever, kind of be prepared, not ask before we show up on the phone.
So tomorrow, I'm off. But, by the end of the day, on Monday, we'll have access to schedule.
Can you take it off?
Your contract.
What's in the morning? Where you going?
So,
Good place.
is that all you have, bro?
That's all. Thank you.
Next item would be announcements.
Oh, thank you so very much, Joel, for that. No, Mike. On Saturday, August 21st, from 9 to 1, Bridgepoint is having their school supplies for all of our elementary schools. It does have dental and vision screening. Dental and vision screening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I actually wasn't sure about that at the last announcement that I made. They have carnival games. There is going to be ice cream trucks there. Once again, it's from Saturday on Saturday 21st, 9 to 1 at Martin Middle School. It is by Bridgepoint Church. It is B as in boy, P as in Peter, R as in rabbit, I as in igloo, .church. You can go on the website, register. For anyone who did not get it at my last announcement. I'm assuming this is, yes, it will be, if you are inside, you do have to wear your mask. Everything though mostly will be outside. The registration will be outside. The fun and games will be outside, but to go get your backpack and school supplies. In an effort for children, everything is free. Free for East Providence elementary school students. It is by far one of the best events. They do such an amazing job. They even had it last year during COVID, when it was a drive-through. lower than they have been in the past with almost every supply. So if you can pick up a pack of 50-cent crayons or 25-cent at Walmart and drop them off. If you can't and you want to bring them here on the 20th, I'll bring it to them on the 21st when I go volunteer. Joel, that was the end of my announcement.
What are we doing? That's my what?
All right.
Wait till after we adjourn?
You wanna-
No, and it wasn't on the agenda, so I'm okay for that. The Attorney General said so, and our attorney said so.
Well, as an announcement, it's
Yeah.
covered, but
Yeah,
anyway,
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie.
yes. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Jonas, do we have a second? Second by Ms. Aznera, all in favor, signify by saying aye.